Hello, my family. All right, y'all. So you know me. Being on this channel is almost like being on a reality channel, because if I'm going to try something new, I always put myself in this position, and many people would say, is Miss Carrie, wouldn't you want to test it before you do your videos? And that would make sense. But in the way that I'm thinking, I always think outside the box. So here's what I think. If I see a recipe, and I'm sure like everybody else, if I see it, somebody else sees it. Does this work? Okay, so I'm going to be the one to say, let's do this together. Because if it works, this is going to be fantastic. But if it doesn't, you're going to see one-on-one with me here on this channel of what happened, what it looks like, and why it didn't work. And maybe we could think of something else. So with that being said, we have a new biscuit grain that we're going to be using, and I have an extractor for pasta that I'm wanting to try as well with kamut. I want to do a really nice Italian supper tonight, and I'm going to be making homemade kamut pasta using the extractor made for a KitchenAid, and see how this works. So y'all, you ready to get in the kitchen with me? If so, let's go. Alright, y'all, so we are going to be in the kitchen. The grain that we're working with today is called Spelt. Spelt is an ancient grain. There are 3 ancient grains in the fresh milling: Spelt, Emmer, and einkorn. These have been around since biblical days. These have been around for a very long time. They all have different flavors, different proteins, different fats, different everything, even in the nutrients and vitamins. Now, I have always made the soft white wheat biscuits. I want to try this Spelt, but I want to try it with you. For those of you who are milling with me, then I wanted to be able to share this recipe with you just to see, does this really work? It's almost like testing products, but these are testing my own products, because honestly, I purchased every grain there was. I want to learn how to use every grain. Now, I have one that I have not purchased yet, and it's going to be on its way, and that is rye bread. Y'all, we are going to be working with making cocktail rye breads and marbled rye breads. I love rye. I don't want to buy anything. I'm learning to make everything on my own as much as possible, because I know what is in what I make. So with that, we're going to go with this Spelt and see how this works, how this tastes, and is it worth it? I put myself vulnerable many times doing this, because if it works for me, then this is great. You get to see it for yourself. There's nothing hidden. So I can't do trick camera with you. I want you to see, does this work? You can hear my opinion. You can see if I talk, whatever. But unless you see it in action, that's the way I believe. That's the way I see it. So to see, does this work? Let's try it. That's what we're going to do together. So I have milled 250 grams of Spelt flour. And then we're going to add the rest of the ingredients. And I'll be back with you when I get that prepared. Okay, y'all, so in the beginning, this one I made actually a mistake on. So this actually is 2 cups of Spelt. This one is a different recipe, and I always go by measurements as far as scaling. This one's going to be slightly different, so we're going to see how this works. So it calls for 2 cups of Spelt flour. One. when I said 250 grams, that I got confused, y'all. That was my pasta one. So I'm doing 2 of them today. Yeah, this one a little more than that. Okay. So we have 2 cups of spelt flour. I need 1/4 teaspoon of baking soda. Now spelt is like, it doesn't have a lot of gluten in it, y'all. So I will say that it is great for making cookies and everything with, and they say you can make muffins with this, but I've seen some people where they've made bread but they had to add gluten, and this one says it doesn't need all that. So we're gonna see if this will work for a biscuit. I do know that soft white wheat is the same way. It's more of a pastry bakery, and it makes some amazing biscuits. So let's see if we can get Spelt to do the same thing. So there was 1/4 teaspoon of baking soda, and then it requires 1 tablespoon of baking powder. So we're going to go ahead and get that one too. And I'm guessing this is going to help with the rise. Now I am using aluminum free baking powder. I have started using this lately. I need 1 teaspoon of salt, and I use Himalayan sea salt. I'm just going to go, no, we're just going to do this right. Get my 1 teaspoon out. Like so. All right. I'm going to go ahead and mix this up right quick, y'all, and then we're going to be adding our butter in here next. And we need 6 tablespoons of cold butter. So let me get this pulsed right quick. All right, now I'm going to go ahead and add, I'm going to take my butter and cut it into pieces, y'all. And I'm just going to mix this enough to get this butter distributed like a coarse sand or like sandy grit. And then we're going to put this in a different bowl because we're going to be adding our buttermilk. It says to use buttermilk, or you can use any kind of milk you would like. I'm going to use buttermilk because I like the flavor of buttermilk biscuits. I'm just going to go ahead and cut these pieces in here, and we're going to mix that up in this food processor. I use this just enough to do this with, y'all, and that's it. I don't try to over process it either. It just helps distribute the butter through the flour instead of using a pastry handheld thing. So let me go ahead and get this distributed, and we'll be right back. Okay, y'all, that literally took less than a minute to do. Now we're going to transfer this to a bowl. We're going to add our buttermilk, and we're going to start forming our biscuits. All right, y'all, so I'm going to actually fill my cup for 1 cup. But remember this, we know that our humidity levels could be slightly different, so I try not to pour the whole thing in there because I want to make sure, I don't want it too sticky and I don't want it too dry. So we're going to turn around and put partial of this in here for right now. Mix it, and if we need more, we're going to go ahead and finish the rest of it. Yep, and it looks like it's going to go ahead, and I don't want to over mix this either, so I'm going to go ahead and add just a little bit more. And this is why I test it like this, because now we have kind of a humid day today. It did rain earlier this morning, and then all of a sudden the heat come around. So we want to make sure that everything, now see, I didn't use all of this, and I'm glad I didn't add all of it because look, y'all, this is forming quite well. It's still kind of sticky, but it definitely doesn't need any more liquid. And I actually can let this sit for a few minutes and let this absorb and go from there, because we know that fresh milled takes a little bit to absorb. So I'm going to actually let my biscuit mix sit for just a few minutes and let this absorb, and we'll be right back. Okay, y'all. So why did I make that executive decision not to use all of that buttermilk? It's because I've been doing this now for almost 2 years, and I've come to know that I've been studying my dough long enough to know when it has enough moisture and when it don't. I'm not always correct, but for the most part it does come out. So I'm learning to pay attention, just like I did when I was actually baking with store-bought dead flour, I call it. I'm now doing this with fresh milled, and there is a big difference, but I'm learning the difference, and I could see the textures. Now this is going to be done on top of a floured surface, of course, because this is a stickier base. And I'm going to flatten this out a little bit. Hold on a second. I'm not going to manipulate this too much, but I'm going to roll this out. And I'm going to fold it back in on itself like this so I can get my layers, y'all. I'm going to turn around and do this, flip it over, lay out my flour like so. Hold this out. Again, I'm going to do this about 3 times. This is not necessary. You don't have to. You can just go ahead and take it and stamp it if you want to and make your biscuits, but I'm wanting to see if I can do these layers like I do the soft white wheat. So once I get these done, I'll be right back. Alright, y'all, so now I'm going to be using my pan. Yes, before anybody says anything, I use parchment paper in the bottom of it because it keeps it from burning. Fresh milled sometimes can be tricky, so now I do not turn my cutter. I'm using almost a 2-inch biscuit cutter, and I do not twist this because I want those layers to come up. So I'm just going to cut out my biscuits here. You can make these as big as or small as you want these. We're just using this size, and I'm going to pop them up. I'm going to place them inside of my pan. We don't like, we like a biscuit, but we also like to taste the ingredients and not just a biscuit. So, and I'm going to put these together as close as I possibly can. Because I make them where when you put them together, they bake together and they rise better this way as well. I'm just going to go ahead and finish this just like this. I try not to handle it too much because I don't want to mess with that butter. But I'm going to come back here, fill up this pan with our biscuits, and once I get this in, we're going to pop them in our preheated 450-degree oven. And they're going to be cooking for about 8 to 10 minutes, y'all. So we'll be back in just a minute. Alright, y'all, so we got our pan ready, and now we're going to pop these in the oven and let these bake. When they bake, we'll be right back. Okay, y'all, so our biscuits are out of the oven. Now, I will say that these are much different. They're not as uniform, basically, as the soft white wheat are. That, you know, that perfect form biscuit. However, these look nice and fluffy. They are perfectly done because I did test the interior to be at least 190 to 200 degrees. I'm going to now butter the tops of these. We're going to let them cool off for a minute, and we're going to test the taste and let you know how this tastes. I've heard that Spelt tastes differently, so we're going to see how these go. I want to be able to, and the reason I'm doing this is to use my grains more in various ways and various types. I have gotten to the point, yeah, y'all, I backed off that really quick because I felt that small sense of heat to tell me, do not grab that. I want to be able to incorporate different grains, different flavors, different proteins and to use all of my grains, not just some, because I have gotten to the point I'll use some, but I need to use more. So we're going to let these cool down enough that I can cut into one and test it. We'll be right back. Okay, y'all, so before, these are still hot, but I wanted to pull one out of the pan just to see how it stands with the rise. Now, if you could see this, I'm actually really impressed how soft looking and fluffy they are. I mean, look, and it springs right back. Y'all, these are very lightweight, very fluffy biscuits. I actually cannot wait to try this, but I am so far really impressed. Look at the texture and the crumb to this. I'll be cutting this open very soon. Alright, y'all, now you're going to see that these are smoking, but I want to show you something. So I pulled this apart, and look at this layers, y'all. Oh my gosh, these are amazing. So let's try this. I can't help it. So these are very soft, beautiful biscuits. Okay, y'all, so I also tested it with Mr. James, and it's coming out. Honestly, these are much nuttier flavor. They're extremely soft and fluffy, as I showed you. Right here in front of you all, we made this together, and I told you I like the reality of it, because if we're going to try a recipe, we're going to see if it's actually going to work together. I don't believe in taking and doing something off camera, showing you this amazing product, and it doesn't work for you. Now, I also informed you again, watch your liquid. Now, it called for 1 cup of buttermilk, and I think I used about 3/4 of a cup because of the humidity in our area. Know that wheat berries are like this. So, and I also let them sit for about 5 minutes or so to absorb some of the liquid to see if I needed any more. It definitely didn't need any more. These turned out to be amazing biscuits, and actually it turned out like this. The results were, I have made soft white wheat biscuits quite often. They're fluffy, they're good, but these turned out fluffier, tastier, nuttier, and Mr. James says he thinks he likes these better. So y'all, that's the verdict. Now we're going to go into making some pasta, and I want to show you another product that I have. I'm not affiliated with this. I bought this myself, but I don't know if anybody else has ever tried this product off of Amazon either. We're going to work together and see if this extracting pasta maker actually works, or is this just a waste of my money. So, I mean, like I said, y'all, we're going to learn together, and if I'm going to be honest, I'm going to show you right in front of you, will this product work, or I'm going to tell you straight up, buy this or don't. We'll see what happens. Okay, y'all, so seeing how this one's going to be the star today, this is our KitchenAid, and he's probably gotten really jealous of me lately because I kind of traded him for the Nutrimil Artiste. But we're going to bring him out today because we're going to use the extracting pieces that I went and got for it. I actually got this on Amazon. Now I will say it was rather a lot less inexpensive than most pieces. And one thing I didn't like about it is this one's more plastic. But the one I really want, y'all, and I will just tell you, I would like to get the Philips 7000. That one could be used with different die cuts, and although it does have some plastic parts to it, it can be replaced with die cuts. So I have been getting my eye focused on that one, but honestly it's like $275 mixer or extractor. So we're going to try this one for the KitchenAid, and I'm going to show you how to put this together, how to work this, and see if we can get our pasta. What I'm looking to make today is like the fagioli, the ones that are spiral cut, for my supper tonight, and we're going to use kamut pasta for that. So let me get our pasta ready, and then I'm going to get our extractor ready to make pasta. Alright y'all, so I have been basically using a lot of my Nutri-Mill Harvest, which is my stone ground mill, and lately I've been pulling out my Nutri-Mill Classic. That is my steel blade mill. The reason I end up putting this one away basically was because I wasn't getting enough fine flour like I really needed to be baking or cooking with. But that is not the machine's fault. That was the operator's fault, because I didn't know how to operate my buttons up here to get that fineness. And y'all, since I started learning, look at this. I mean, this is amazing flour right here. So we had to mill up our kamut, and I did a lot extra, just so you know. So I'm going to store it in my freezer so it's readily available anytime I need it. I store it in the freezer to lock in those nutrients, y'all, and not to lose them. So we're going to get out our scale, and we need 250 grams of our kamut, or if you have it, durum wheat. Alright y'all, I have 250 grams of kamut right here. Let me see if I move this over so you can see this. Okay, so we have, yeah, well, this ain't working. Hang on a minute, y'all. There we go. So here's our 250 grams of our flour. I'm going to tear this out. And I need 5 grams of salt. I will tell you, this isn't necessarily about the recipe, as it's going to be about the extracting equipment. I will tell you what the name of this extractor is. It just says Pasta Press Add Attachment Daily Display. The company, I don't know, y'all, it's not a name brand. I will tell you, it's not like KitchenAid. It was just an inexpensive system, basically, hence the reason why it's just all plastic. But it was just a attachment, it says, that goes to your KitchenAid. So yeah, there's no really name on this. I'm gonna have to go back and link this for you guys to show you what this one is. But right now I'm gonna go ahead and make a well in the center. I need to turn this off. Hang on. Well, no, I need my salt first. Duh. Sorry, y'all. Okay, so I need 5 grams of salt. Yep, 5 grams. You know what? I don't trust it by doing it that way. I never have. So let's do it this way. I'm going to put 5 grams of salt on this plate and dump it into our bowl. How's that? There's 5 grams of salt going into our bowl. Alright, y'all. Now, that's all the weighing we're going to need. Going to mix this together, and then we're going to add our liquid ingredients, which is now going to be just our eggs and water. Now, our water, we're going to go by tablespoons, so I'm going to get a small dish of water, because we're not going to use all of it. It calls for like 2 or 3 to 4 tablespoons of water. We might not need all that. We're just going to need, or go with what we need. So I'm going to mix this up really well, mixing our salt into our mix. And I'll be right back, y'all. Sorry about that, y'all. So I'm going to go ahead and add, I made the well in the center of my mix. I'm now going to add 2 eggs, and I'm going to start out with about 1 tablespoon of liquid and go from there until we see in our mixer how well this is going to work. I'm going to put this in here. Now I'm going to use the dough paddle for this. Right here. And then we are going to mix this. I'm going to go ahead and start that and add my tablespoon of water. And we're just going to mix this up until we get a good dough. We don't want it too dry and we don't want it too wet. So when we get to a point after it starts gathering up everything, y'all, I'm going to show you what our dough should look like. Right now I have 1 tablespoon. We'll see how many tablespoons that we're going to actually need. And this is what we're looking for, y'all, for our dough comes together. Now we're going to actually knead this by hand because it can tend to get a little bit too rough for the KitchenAid. So we're going to take it from here and knead this by hand. And now it's going to be a workout, but it's going to be worth it. So let me get us set up. Okay, y'all, so now comes the kneading part. Now what we're looking for is a smooth dough, pliable dough, and it takes kneading. Pasta is much different than bread flour or bread dough. So honestly, it's the same method though when it comes to kneading. We just fold it over and you just take the palm of your hand. You don't want to press it into the board. You just kind of roll it as you press a little bit. Slight pressure, but you're just rolling. I'll even make it one-handed and nice and roll. So that's all we're doing, and what we're looking for is being able to get a nice smooth texture. And what I mean by that is when we touch our dough like this, we want it to be nice and pliable, but we don't want it doing like it's did right there. You see that cracking? We have a lot to work with. So once I get this where we need it, if it gets to a point it starts feeling a little dry, I will get my hands wet and knead it, finish kneading it with some wet hands just to add just a tiny bit more moisture to it. We don't want a whole lot though. We do not want to make a sticky dough. So I'm just going to continue to do this, and I'm going to show you the final product to where we got the gluten just right on our pasta. And when that happens, we'll be back and I'll show you what it should look like then. Okay, y'all, so now I'm at the point where I can indent into my pasta, and it is not, or my dough, and it is not cracking or breaking. So we've reached a good point. I'm just going to go just a little more, not much more, because I've pretty much reached the consistency that I needed, or the texture of this dough to be able to make our pasta with. Okay. There's just something so satisfying, y'all, with kneading dough. I don't know what it is. It's just very, to me, very therapeutic. It makes it hard for me to stop. And I know I've been using my mixer a lot lately because I have carpal tunnel, but there's just something about kneading my own dough. Alright, y'all, so we're going to take our dough now and flatten this, and we're going to stick this inside of a plastic bag. We're going to let this sit for about a half hour, no more than 2 hours. So after it's been through its resting period, we'll be back, and this one will be ready to extract. In the meantime, I'm going to show you how to put this piece together, and I'll try to give you the information you need on the name of this doggone thing because it wasn't on the box. Okay, y'all, so I am going to put the link to this pasta attachment for your KitchenAid in the description box below. It's actually a gourmet 6-in-1 attachment. There's really no name for it. It was about like $49.99 on Amazon for this. And it'll show you basically, so those of you who have Amazon Prime, just look up KitchenAid attachment. Now they do have different types, and I actually got the cheapest of them all at the time, y'all, because I needed an extractor. But like I said, my dream goal is to get the Philips 7000. I really would like to get that pasta extractor because I can do so much more. Why am I doing it this way? Yes, for the same price, I have the silver one that y'all had seen with the hand crank. I can do flat sheets with that, and I can make pasta, spaghetti, fettuccine, linguine, and lasagna. But I wanted to be able to try different type of pasta noodles as well. So that required to have an extractor. And so that's what we're going to try on this one and see how well it does. Until I'm able to get that Philips 7000, I'm going to have to use something that I can try to do. I don't know how well this is going to be because it is all plastic and it does have me concerned, but it is what it is. So that's the way it goes. This is the piece number 1 that goes in the center. Now you'll find that this thing has this cap on it basically, and that cap goes on, and then this thing has been screwed on this. Well, you're going to remove this covering, this cap, because we need it for this. And we're going to pop this, make sure it's out of there, and pop this in place. And then I'm going to tighten this down. There we go. Alright, so the next piece, after this one has been attached, the next piece comes this device right here. And this center goes right in this piece here, and it turns. You want to go till it clicks. You'll hear that clicking lock. And now this piece is on here. The third piece, we have, hang on y'all, I lost my box. This can get confusing, so what I will tell you until you get used to is do not lose this booklet. This booklet is going to be your lifesaver because there's a lot of pieces to this. So the next piece is the cut, and that's where this die piece, I told you this is all y'all plastic. I really don't particularly like this, but it is what it is. So, and then it does come with different cuts. I've got name you the cuts that we have. Fazoli, which is the spiral cut. We have the elbow macaroni. We have oh, what do you call that? Hang on a second. My other favorite, actually, rigatoni. Okay, here we go. It's got the fusilli, which is your spiral. It's got spaghetti, bucatoni. I love bucatoni. It is like a long pasta, kind of hollow type. We used to eat it a lot with my mama's way of making stuffed grape leaves. So bucatoni is an amazing thick pasta. Rigatoni, I love rigatoni, making pasta salad with it. Then you have your large macaroni and your small macaroni, which would be your basically elbow macaroni. So these are the 6 pieces that come with this. We're going to be using the fusilli, the spiral cut, because I am making an Italian shrimp and pasta dish tonight. So y'all, I guess I'm going to see how I can pop this on here now. Give me a minute, y'all, because I gotta figure this out. Alright, y'all, so your cut goes inside of this thing here, just like this. You'll see where there's this indentation to match right with this piece right here. This goes on the inside. Now you will have to work with it a little bit, but it snaps right in place. Now my die cut is in here, and now y'all, we can go ahead and attach it. Oops, hang on a minute. It goes with the cut side down, and snap that in place. All right, y'all. Hold up. I'll be right back. Alright, y'all. So we're going to start from the beginning on this one. And by the way, I had to show y'all, I got my, what's my, called a lefse, Lefse. This is a Norwegian flatbread turner, y'all. One that actually does like your tortillas. And this one here, you put your dough on here and onto your pan. And I don't actually have a left per se cook device, but I can use my cast iron skillet or kamal. But this is a Norwegian stick that'll help me pick up my flatbread so much better and without tearing too. So I'm excited about this. I got a thing, part of my own heritage, and we will be doing a episode with a Norwegian lefse. It's actually a potato flatbread tortilla, and I'm going to be showing y'all how to do those too. But let's get back to this KitchenAid. All right, y'all, so we had this centerpiece here. We need to add this device now, which goes up in here. You're gonna have to attach this to the grooves. Let's see, does that go that way? No, this definitely goes this way. So, and it doesn't go all the way in there, so just so you know that. But you're going to be adding this piece over the top of it. This is where it's gonna push the dough through. We're gonna take this, lock it in place as you just heard it lock. Now, this was the piece where we put our die in it. We're going to put it in here. We want the die to be down, and we're going to add this piece, slide it on here, and we're going to turn this. Oh, that's tight, y'all. And we're going to tighten this in place. Now there is a tool that tightens it. I don't want to tighten it too much, but this tool right here came with it. And this basically goes on here and tightens this up for you just like this. So you don't have to even use your hands basically. So now our die is in place. This one here, I think it's up slightly. Yeah, it's up slightly. So I'm going to undo it, take this device back. Oh. Pull it back a little. Now I'm going to shift this a little more. It takes a little bit to work with them, y'all. Yeah, it does take some working with this. Alright, y'all, be right back. Okay, so that was my own error, y'all. This comes off, and I need to line this to the top of my groove, and it slides right on. Now I take this piece, lock it in place. Just like so. And then we have our cutting device right here. I am working with this with y'all like as if you were doing this as well. So we're trying to learn this together, y'all. This is the piece that cuts our pasta off once it's finished. So this comes up here and snaps together. Just like so. And now we have this silver, let me show you here. There's this little slicer right here. You want this at the bottom up here toward the top side of your, pop that into place. So now we leave it like this. Once your pasta starts coming out through here, you will turn that, cut it, and then turn it back. So this device will help you cut your pasta. And now, y'all, we are ready to extract and be able to start getting our pasta. Now we're waiting for our mix to be done. In the meantime, this bad boy is set up. Okay, y'all, so now we're going to take our pasta and we're going to put this thing together. I have a pan down here with some flour on it. And we don't want our dough super sticky either. But you don't want to throw this whole thing because we're working within this tube right here. So I'm actually going to make this into balls, basically. And I'm just going to pop these inside here. Now this device that turns this thing also takes, let's see if you can see it. Hang on a second, y'all. Let's see, we'll move you just a little bit. This device comes in here at the top of this port and pushes down our pasta for our extractor. So I'm gonna take a couple balls of dough inside of here. Don't ever use your finger while it's on, they say, so that was a bad thing to show you. Alright, so now we're going to actually turn this on. Now they also say in the beginning that the pasta can tend to be a bit rough. If it's the case, we put the dough back in here and we keep going. So let's turn this on. You can see it coming out the bottom here, y'all. It's hard to see on that one. You see this pasta, and I'm going to cut it. Again, this is still rough, so it's not exactly, this isn't coming out exactly as it should be, as it says to be swirly. That's kind of disappointing. Yeah, y'all, I mean, it'll do it in a pinch, but it's not exactly doing, and maybe it's because it's kind of, once it heats up, they say it's better. And this is definitely heating up now, so. What can I expect though? It was actually inexpensive. So that's why I said, it will work on a pinch? Probably yes, but it's not the best in the world. And it definitely doesn't do fusilli very well. I guess I twist it without, you know what I'm saying? Now I can do it that way. We'll twist it a little bit. Definitely not what I expected, y'all. But that's going to be the end of this video, y'all, to show you this extractor. So if any of you were looking for this KitchenAid and you happen to run across this really kind of inexpensive but not exactly cheap either system, that's what this one does. And my opinion, it's going to work for now until I can get my dream machine, y'all, because this is not exactly what I bargained for, unfortunately. So, I mean, it is what it is, though, right? So, y'all, yep, that's going to be it. Hang on a second.